everybody! Sorry this took so freaking long. I was not expecting for this to be this long. But before we get into the full designs of everybody, I really wanted to give some criticisms to the show in the nicest way possible. Because you guys know me. So I didn't know anything about the show whatsoever. I had no idea that it was even in production 3 years ago. I may have watched one video about it, but I don't remember any of it. So having this come out and people just bashing it, I'm just like, it can't be that bad, can it? I don't know any of the history, so let's just see. So I went into this completely blind. My friend had already seen it and they were really excited for me to watch it. All I can say after watching the whole thing, it's bad, okay? I mean, some of the character designs are really cute and I do like them, but they're very bland and, not as memorable as you would like them to be. And then the thing that really bothered me the most was the fashion in this so-called anime. If they're supposed to be in medieval times, they're referencing D&D clearly, but the fashion does not make any sense in the show. I'm gonna have some examples. The first character that we're introduced that really blew my mind and bothered me so much was the cousin of one of the main characters, and I think you guys know which one I'm talking about. This purpled hair 2021 monstrosity. Even here in her concept art, her outfits are clearly of today's time. They have nothing to do with medieval style and fashion, other than maybe the tattoos, which I think are really cool. Personally, I really like this, bottom left one. But, it just makes no sense, especially when she's standing next to her wife. Her wife is this magical elf woman and she's in her correct style. So it's just weird to have this. You can have new aged medieval fashion, but having this weird today fashion is just weird. It doesn't make any sense and it really threw me out of everything. I mean, it's not just that. There's a lot of fashion issues as well. The uniform that all the kids are wearing, this is so new aged. It is not a Middle Ages kind of school uniform. Normally kids in the Middle Ages wouldn't even have worn uniforms. That's just not something that would have happened. It's just weird. The fashion is all over the place. Even in the intro, you'll see right here, they're wearing swimsuits. They're legit swimsuits. Sage and Rosemary are wearing bikinis. That is not something that would have happened in the Middle Ages. Bathing suits were not a thing. It drives me crazy, and I'm so glad it was only in the intro, because if I actually saw them in bathing suits in the show, I'd have lost my mind. And there were a few other costume issues that I had too, the Halloween episode, everyone is in costumes, but instead of medieval costumes, they're in today's styled clothes costumes, and it drives me up the wall. It drives me up the wall. Then they had the rainy day episode, which I was like, oh, that'll be cute, I'm excited. Nope, I was so not excited because everyone's in sweaters. Now, it would be okay for them to wear sweaters because, that kind of stuff did exist. But, the style of sweater and pants and shoes that they're wearing is very clearly of today's style, including Sage. She's wearing a freaking cardigan with, a regular black dress and, it's not medieval fashion. She's clearly wearing today's style, and it bothers me so much. And I think the only fashion character that has bothered me the most is the demon character. Oh my god, look at her! She looks ridiculous. Why does she look like this? Oh my god. Her glasses too. This is not a shape that medieval glasses would have been. It's very rare for glasses to even have been made in medieval times. But still, this whole, librarian style that she's got, even her shoes, it's not correct. It just, I'm sorry. It's just, if you put all of these side by side, it's what era are these characters living in? Why are they even wearing medieval battle attire if their main outfits are more, normal? So it makes no sense, honestly. I don't know, it just bothers me, because, it looks so freaking weird, honestly. Ugh. And then, a weird off-topic thing, but I keep seeing people say that this show belongs on Cartoon Network because of the cow art style or whatever, but I just have to sit here and say Cartoon Network is not the only network that makes that. I mean, Disney has Star vs. the Forces of Evil, so that's also the same kind of style. And I think even Nickelodeon has a few shows back in the day that are similar to the style. And I'm like, it's not just a Cartoon Network thing. It's just a Western style. Like, it's the same way as anime would do. And I can hear you guys in the comments. I mean, look at all these characters. They could all easily be related to each other. Like, yeah, some of the style is a little bit different, but you can tell that each character is referenced from one another in some way. Like, look, these two easily could belong in the same anime. Like, even these two. Like, I legit thought this was the same guy, but no, it's a different guy. Even the haircut is the same. Like, anime can do it too. There's a bunch of others too. Like, they stick to the same trope of pink hair, pink eyes, you know? It's not just American cartoons. Like, look at these two. I mean, I know they don't look like they're from the same anime, but they are clearly referencing each other. So it's just so weird that people, bash on the style when anime kind of also does it too. So, think about that. But anyway, let me get on to the designs because this video is already really long. We're gonna start with. So, I'm just gonna say it. I hate Rosemary's design and personality, which is kind of sad because she's supposed to be the main character, I think. Like, your main character should have people excited to watch them, but she's just so meh. I can see where Ray Rodriguez was coming from, but this Lolita warrior monstrosity is just not the way to do it. Also, side note, I had no idea that Rose and Caraway are both self-inserts of the same person, which is all kinds of confusing, but on to the design. So for Rosemary, I completely downgraded her outfit for the obvious reason of she's a warrior type. Her cutesy Lolita style just wouldn't cut it on the battlefield, because trust me, I've lived a Lolita life right there. There's not much room to move, like, there's really not. Plus, her vest thing is kind of ugly. I mean, what purpose does it serve other than, like, completely covering up her dress? Also, her hair, as cute as it is, how the heck can she see anything with it puffed up like that? If the show was sticking to the Lolita style, she could have had a hairstyle similar to this, but I just don't understand it. Anyway, I decided her outfit would be more like a page, which is kind of like a knight's assistant, so less puffy clothes and more casual and battle friendly. I changed the weird armor vest into a real breastplate, and I figured I could add more lore to her character by making her armor belong to her mother and give her the same hairstyle as her mom, since her character type seems to be really attached to her and clearly wants to follow in her footsteps. Another thing I did was give her more scars and a knocked out tooth because of how clumsy she is, which got me thinking, how did Rose even get into the same school as her mom? Like, she's not really good at her swordsing, as she calls it, which right there is a red flag. There's just so much about this show that makes no sense, but I digress, and I can't. I also made her a bit tanner and more sunburnt. I figured for a hyper kid, she must really enjoy being outside. Plus, since it seems like her family's kind of poor, it would make sense for her not to work with her family to avoid messing anything up, and would also leave her with a bit more time to hang out with Sage and also be healed a lot by her. It would make more sense for their friendship to be that way. Also, I want to say that I aged up a lot of the characters. Ray Rodriguez did post how old they were, and honestly, it does not match whatsoever. So, also, I forgot to mention that I did age up some of the characters because I did find that Ray Rodriguez had posted the ages of all the characters, and it kind of bothered me by the ages because when you look at the designs, they look 12. They do not look the age that they are portraying. And considering the fact that this so-called anime is for older audiences, it's weird how cutesy it is. Like, obviously you can do cutesy and still have a mature audience. I mean, there's a market for it, but, there's just really not enough adult-ish humor, or, it doesn't warrant the rating. And I get why they have the rating in the beginning, because the show is very cutesy, so a kid could look at it and go, oh, that could be for me. So I get the warning, but I feel like it wasn't warranted at all because a lot of the gore, the swearing, the adult innuendos just made no sense. And they were so far in between each episode that each episode I got really confused when a character would curse, or there was blood, or a teacher said something a little not appropriate. And so it's just like, if you're gonna make it, an adult, not necessarily an adult, but a higher rating than normal, maybe actually stick with that. Because, I mean, Owl House is technically, I think, PG-13 to a degree for subject matters and stuff, and we see all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, none of the characters curse because it is Disney, but I mean, we still get the feel that it is made for an older audience and not clearly an 8-year-old child just sitting, picking their nose and going, I like the colors. So, yeah, that's what always kind of really bothered me about this whole show style, and that's kind of why I didn't draw them in anime style as well. I really wanted to keep with the Western style, because clearly, even though it keeps saying it's an anime, it's drawing so much Western influence and like sprinkling in anime influence, because there's a lot of shows out there that do sprinkle anime influence, like Craig of the Creek, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, like frick, even Gravity Falls sprinkled anime into their show. It's really not hard, and it's kind of fun for Western shows to incorporate that, but trying to create a Western anime probably wasn't the best idea, and I don't know, the style just doesn't fit the tone whatsoever. Okay, now for Sage. I just have one thing to say. What a boring, basic ASS design! Like, why even bother? Right? She's just some country bumpkin sorcerer. Why shouldn't she have her own style? Like, sorcerer types are the best time to pull out all the stops. I mean, at least Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service could pull it off, but this weird dress thing Sage has on is just so bland. Like, even her overcoat in the first episode is no different. Okay, sorry. So for Sage's design, I decided to make her more skinny to show off a different body type, plus it makes her seem even more weak and shy, and I decided to give her glasses like her dad because she looks way too much like her mom. 50-50 on parents, guys. Yeah, and I made her way darker since she and Rose are only one color difference in hue, like skin tone, and I really wanted them to be extremely different from one another. I also imagine her family is just as poor as Rosemary's, if not a little bit less, since they are healers that still use old magic, and, new magic would probably take a lot of business away. So I gave her a more casual cottagecore look. It's extremely basic and easy to make. It's the embroidery that makes it more fancy, like little details in the fabric that make it seem richer, but it's really not. But I made her shoes a little bit bigger. I mean, they could be considered hand-me-downs or just work shoes since she probably lives on a farm, which I still find really weird because the first episode was just filler, and we spent most of the time hopping from vehicle to vehicle to vehicle, but we didn't get to explore their village first. Like, I would have loved to have known how Rosemary and Sage acted in their home village versus how they're going to act in the new city area that they're going to be living in for a while. It would have been a good introduction to these two characters before we got introduced to the next two characters, Plus, it would have shown, like, how much different they are compared to Parsley and Thyme, who have kind of been living in the city for a while, versus these two other characters who've basically just been living in the countryside. Like, it would have been really interesting to see these two characters' relationship and development first before they added two more people to their party, Because honestly, the first episode was just so boring of just traveling around. It was probably the most boring pilot I've ever seen. Plus, it kind of made no sense that they were taking all those buses and trains when Sage has a flying broomstick. I mean, they could have done a Kiki Delivery Service thing where they're all flying to the same place, or they could have done like a Magic Witch Academia where they fly to the tunnel to get where they need to go. There could have been other ways of traveling instead of making us sit there and watch like 4 minutes of nothing. It's just a lot. It's just, there's so much this show could have done really, really well, and it just bothers me that, like, so much time and effort went into this, and it still just came up just boring and basic and dry as the desert. Anyway, I'm sorry for getting off topic. Let me get back to everything we were doing. I also gave her a much longer and fatter braid, because, spoiler, all her hair gets cut off, and I wanted that scene to be more dramatic, and her basic braids just won't do. I mean, look at this. That's how you cut hair climactically. As for the hat, I just added some herbs and flower buds to really enhance the design, cause again, her style is super boring. Plus the colors don't really match her. Her dress is a very dark purple, and her hair is blue, and her eyes are pink. It's just a lot of similar colors that don't really tie themselves together that well, which is why I went with a more navy blue and muted yellow for a bit of pop, which I'm pretty happy with, because low key, she's my fave out of the four right now, design wise. Another weird thing that I wanted to point out is the saturation of the entire show. It is on full blast. You know me, I am the neon queen. I love saturated colors. But oh my god, watching all the episodes at once was the worst idea ever. I'm so happy that the Halloween episode was at night. Everything was so toned down. I felt so relaxed. Still, the saturation was way too much. Like, there are shows that have colors that really do pop, and I do enjoy them, but this is like on a whole nother level. Not only is the saturation too much, the brightness level is just crazy. I feel like the coloring and lighting department probably never saw each other or spoke to each other, because it's just crazy how off the wall the colors are and how bright everything is. It's just, for a show that is for an older audience, it is really jarring to look at, and I'm like, maybe if it was toned down a bit, which I did do with a lot of the designs that I did make, I did tone down a lot of the color. Okay, you're all gonna hate me, but hear me out first, okay? I did in fact change Parsley into a boy, and his name is Basil now. And I mean, well, I'm, I'm just not a fan of an all-girl cast. Yeah, I know, weird, right? I'm a girl who's not a fan of girl cast. It's just kind of boring sometimes. Plus, I'm a sucker for mixed cast. It's just more fun in my opinion. But anyway, on to his design. So, since Parsley is supposedly a blacksmith, why in the world is she wearing German high short overalls? Like, she's going to get burned so bad it's not even funny. Plus, she's wearing fingerless gloves. Girl, are you trying to lose your hands? So, that's why Basil's design is more covered up with metalwork boots and blacksmith gloves. I also made Basil the most toned down out of everybody because I'm assuming he's gonna be the poorest out of the four. I mean, with all those kids, it's gotta be crazy expensive, especially since they live in the city. But weirdly enough, I still really like the storyline of having too many siblings, is because it is kind of part of the D&D lore. Like, dwarven clans can have up to 10 kids, so it's not impossible. Plus, I think Basil being the first boy with so many siblings would still put him in the position to take care of them, making him a kind of motherly brother, which I think would be kind of fun to see. I mean, we don't see very many male characters doing like womanly roles, I guess you could say. Not that taking care of siblings is a womanly role, but your mom would probably ask you before she asks your older brother to help out. Anyway, his overall design is very basic for a dwarf blacksmith, but I do have another outfit for him. Okay, this is going to be a weird tangent, but I find it really weird that even though Parsley is extremely good at blacksmithing, she goes to school to learn more blacksmithing. Like, that doesn't seem right. Like, that's just a weird path to take, especially when you're already good at something. So I think what would have worked better is if they had changed her path to be, and I'm gonna say it wrong, I've always said it wrong, but for me it's artificer. So instead of Parsley going to school to be a blacksmith, I think it would make more sense that if she went to school to be an artificer. Artificers use ingenuity and magic to unlock extraordinary capabilities in objects. So kind of like Hextech from Arcane, where you're infusing weapons with magic. So I feel like that would have made more sense instead of making Parsley go to school to learn a skill she's already really good at. Make her go to like the next level where, since considering the fact that new magic is being pushed really, really hard on everybody, I think the school would have changed blacksmithing to a new age form of blacksmithing and magic use. So that's why right now I have Basil in a more basic styled outfit versus the newer outfit that he would get if he went to school and got to tinker around a little bit more with that side of blacksmithing and magic. Plus, I think, like, in terms of character, that, a blacksmith character going to try something new would be really interesting and help with character growth, considering the fact that he is dwarven, and that's not really a job that most dwarves would go for, considering the fact that they are war-type species. So, having a warrior-type dwarf go into a profession that, wouldn't necessarily be their normal profession, which I think would be fun to see and would actually enhance the character a lot more. Yeah. Also, the suit was kind of a fun idea, but I can imagine it'd be really hard to animate, so, that's why I made the two outfits. I will show you guys the new outfits. It's going to be a sketch, because I really don't have time. But, the soot is just the difference between a blacksmith and an artificer, where the blacksmith style is still old style ingenuity, and the artificer is more new school ingenuity. I don't know. I feel like it'd be more fun. It would have shown a lot more interest in the character, because Parsley is weirdly the most unused and most background main character I've ever seen in a show. And I feel really bad because everybody really likes her, so, you know. Okay, on to time. Before I get fully into the design, I do want to say that I did change time as well. Instead of time using she and her pronouns, I decided to make time non-binary, so they go by they them. Me and my friend were talking about it, and it really seemed like a good idea. And I feel like that would have been a fun storyline as well, considering the fact that there's not much character development for any of the characters. Like, they stay pretty much the same until the very end, and it's kind of weird. I don't like it. But anyway, Time is kind of my favorite / least favorite character. I say favorite because she's an elf, and they're always fun to draw. But as for Time's design, who, by the way, I have named Malabar, which is a type of, bean. I just really don't like the name Time. It's weird. I just think Malabar sounds better, especially for an elf type. But yeah, I decided to make them taller, since even though Time is the tallest out of the group, she's still not elf tall. Like her and her mother should be towering over everybody. Did the show writers not watch Lord of the Rings or even play D&D? Because I'm starting to think none of them did. But anyway, I gave them a bodysuit style along with a leather woven vest to get rid of that weird half-boob chest thing. Okay, pre-edit Brittany here. My cousin says it's a chest guard, and it's mostly just used to keep your clothes from getting in the way, which is, I guess that makes sense, but yeah, back to the thing. So yeah, I think the leather vest thing works a little bit better than that weird shoulder thing. I also changed up the skirt style that Time is wearing, because I don't know if anyone has noticed. I know no one has really said it in the videos I've watched, but nearly every character is wearing skirts. Like, Rosemary is wearing a full-on dress, Sage is wearing a full-on dress, Parsley is technically wearing booty shorts, and then they have Time in this short skirt with really thigh-high boots, and I'm like, technically, they look like children, but they are technically older, but it's still so weird, and I don't know, I really hate that there's no variety in their outfits, So that's why I decided to give Malabar like a full bodysuit thing, and then still incorporate the cloak and skirt in a way by having this longer pointed I can never remember the word for it. I want to say tunic, but I think I'm wrong. I also gave them I can never say this right either. Dalish face markings, which I always love adding to wood elf characters, which, by the way, I've decided they are, because, it's kind of weird that it's never mentioned what species of elf Time is, but whatever. Also, for color, I muted her a lot, because one, her skin and hair tone are way too close in hue, that she looks washed out, like you should want your character's face to be the focus, but if the colors get too close together, you end up with a character whose face matches their hair. Hence why I gave them a more gray blonde look. It really makes them stand out even more. Also, side note, I used Echo as my inspo for color, so a lot of arcane references going on in here. Also, I found it kind of weird that if Time is supposed to be representing an African American person, why doesn't she have more natural curls? Like she has so much volume already, but like she has no kinky hair whatsoever, and I found that kind of disappointing. Considering the fact that they kept saying, we're so inclusive, we're such a diverse cast, and da da da. Like, yeah, if you're such a diverse cast, maybe actually make diverse characters and do it kind of correctly, because this is not working. Because, I mean, her hairstyle is already super boring to begin with. Like, she's an elf! Where are the braids? That's like the first thing I think of when designing elves, is braids. It's. Ugh. I don't understand. Like, I have a weird love-hate relationship with this show. There's some aspects that I really didn't enjoy, and there's others where I'm just like, I really feel like you didn't think things all the way through. But it's too late to say anything. I feel like the show could have been good, but, they didn't really put in the work or the effort into really understanding the fantasy world or even work on the lore a little bit more. You don't have to spoon feed us the lore. We can figure it out on our own. Owl House does it perfectly, but this show is just, it's so weird. It's like a Twilight Zone kind of thing. It makes no sense in a lot of ways, but anyway, I think I did an okay job with some of the designs. Let me know what you guys think, because weirdly enough, there is going to be a part 2. I couldn't fit everybody. So I'll be drawing the so-called bullies of the show, aka Amaryllis and Snapdragon, along with an OC as well. And I know that sounds weird, but I couldn't help it. But anyway, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.